Hello everyone, welcome to my Dresden Files series tier list. So this is one of my favorite series of all time. I just finished my first ever reread, and so I wanted to do my ranking while it's all very fresh, and this is going to be full series spoilers. So please do not watch this if you have not read all of the books up through Battleground, and if you are curious what my rankings are, you could jump to the conclusion of this, the last timestamp, where you can see the tier list and not be spoiled on anything. I don't want you to miss out on all the twists and turns and surprises and cool things that happen. So this video is really for the Dresden Files veterans who have read the whole series through already. The tiers are Dresden Files themed. We got the S tier is Fuego, Forzare, another great spell that he often uses. Ventus Servitas is my B tier. The wind spell is pretty good. Flickambicus, it does just a little bit of fire. So still good, but not as epic as the others. And last, the D tier would be Infriga for Ice Cold. We'll see if anything makes it in there. So here we go. First we have Stormfront. Now, this is a pretty slim book. Not too much important series stuff happens, but I enjoyed it a lot on reread. It was really kind of nostalgic to go back to the beginning of the series and see where Harry's at. And I think Jim Butcher had a really good handle on Harry's character from the beginning of the series, and it's amusing. I just liked the whole setup of the series, the whole premise of this wizard who is public about, what he's doing, but that everyone's skeptical of him. He's just scraping by with odd jobs, and he works with the police who's also skeptical with him. I just love the whole setup and premise of the series, and like this one a good amount, so I'm going to put it in my B tier. Full Moon. So I like this on first read, but it's the one I wanted to reread the least. I just don't love the whole werewolves plotting, and the different groups of werewolves didn't provide a great antagonist. It's okay. This one is probably down in my C tier, Flickambicus. Grave Peril. Alright, so here's where the books really start to open up a little bit, and on reread, you get to meet really key characters for the first time, like Thomas and Justine. You get Michael, and just meeting him for the first time, and they're Harry and Michael teaming up to beat down some ghosts. That's good stuff, but I thought the book is a little disjointed. There's the ghost stuff going on, and then there's the whole vampire house, and it's really important what happens there, and it's cool to see all the little Easter eggs and important characters that are there, and with people getting infected at that house, and so it's cool to see all that. But the book was pretty good. The book is okay. I'll put it at the back of B tier. So Summer Night. Now this is when I think it starts to feel like epic fantasy. You get the introduction to the Fae, the summer and winter courts, and you get to meet Queen Mab. That was a great scene. This has one of my favorite scenes in the whole series, where Harry goes to the big white council meeting in Chicago in the auditorium, and he's showing up in his bathrobe, and everyone's speaking Latin, and he barely understands it and can't really speak it, and he's fighting for his life pretty much from the crowd, and it's just really cool scene. But then the case with the murder of the Summer Night just was not very impactful on reread, and when you know who's behind it or what's coming, that was kind of an uninteresting middle. And that the big action scene at the Walmart I think is one of the weaker action scenes of the series with the big plant monster. And that brings us to the end, though, where we have the epic battle in the sky, and that's a very cinematic scene. I really enjoyed that on reread. So it's a really tale of two books. I love the beginning and the end, but that middle was a bit weaker, so probably at the front of B here. All right, Death Mass. This is one of the books that jumped the highest for me on second read. I just couldn't believe how action-packed and exciting and tense this book was. I might flirt with putting it in the S tier here, but maybe I'll go for A. The character of Shiro only appears in this book and doesn't even have that much page time, but was so memorable. Every time he's on the page, he is just an outstanding character that you want to spend more time with. Him trading his life for Harry's with Nicodemus was just a really, really great moment, touching moment, and loved the introduction of the Denarians. You got some really cool action scenes with that, and then you have the fallout from Harry killing Bianca really coming down on him with the Red Court vampires trying to kill Harry, and then having the duel with Ortega, and that duel was amazing with the Archive and Kincaid. I loved the back and forth action between, every other scene Harry's life is threatened either by the Denarians and Nicodemus or the Red Court vampires. Just so tense, just really cool mystery plot at the end that had a plot twist with Father Vincent not being really Father Vincent. Just a twist that works really well there. And yeah, something that sets up Nicodemus and the Denarians for the future really well too. So, loved Death Mass on reread. Alright, Blood Rights. Unfortunately, the series is just like solid, steady increase in quality through this beginning part until Blood Rights, because the case file in this book with the porn movie shoot is one of the weakest ones of the series, easily. And the side characters involved with that I think are just some of the weakest, most cardboard characters in the whole series. But it actually doesn't get that much page time. Luckily, the book doesn't spend that long there. And the middle sequence of this book is so impactful, where Harry ends up back at the Wraith Manor and discovers that Thomas is his brother, sees his mother for the first and only time, gets to talk with her. Like, that is one of the most touching, emotionally impactful moments in the entire series. And really good stuff in the middle of this book. Also, he gets Mouse at the beginning, and Mouse is just an absolute cutie throughout this book too. But the ending was also one of the weakest climaxes at the Deeps, where it seems like something epic is going to happen, where they're summoning He Who Walks Behind, but then not much happens with that, and they kind of just escape out of there without too much going on. So I'll say maybe in the middle of B tier. Alright, Deadbeat. This book is a delight. We have just multiple groups of antagonists who are interesting. Who is Cowl and Kumori? Super powerful, but Kumori doesn't seem very violent towards Harry. It's just really setting up a really great mystery with those characters. And then on reread, this book is a delight because you know that Sheila is not a real person, but is actually Lash. And so seeing how that plays out, where, how it actually happens that Harry doesn't realize that he's talking to an imaginary friend, and that Bach is really nervous around him in the store. Just really liked all of that in Deadbeat. But the heart of this book is Butters. Just the cowardly vanilla human who rises to the occasion with Dresden's support throughout. The way that Dresden builds up Butters throughout this book is so touching, and starts to really get at the heart of what this series is all about, with Harry taking on all of the monsters in the universe with a little help from his friends. So loved the way Butters ends up saving Harry, and then riding with him at the end, using his polka skills to keep the drum going. The ending is so tense, with the wardens getting involved and Harry killing Lucio, who is really Corpse Taker, and then Morgan almost killing Harry and not believing that's what happened. Really great ending. Just a fantastic book overall. I am thinking, though, that I actually prefer Death Mass, so go with the back of A tier for now. Alright, Proven Guilty. After the heart-pounding, action-packed Deadbeat, I think Proven Guilty was a cool step back into a quieter book where it's a lot of meaningful character interactions. Like, it's just one after the next, with Harry and Michael, and meeting Molly and dealing with her warlock developing powers, and Harry with lots of other people. Just heavy on conversations and character development, which was a nice breath that we could take here when the things were getting so tense and fast-paced. The actual case file was really interesting, where you don't really know what's going on with this phobophage, and he's trying to catch the phobophage and then ends up turning the spell back on Molly. It's such a great twist. And then Storming Arctis tour with Charity and some others was just an awesome scene at the end. And then to start the book with the execution of the young warlock, and then to end at the same location where Molly's on trial. I just thought this book was so thematically cohesive, where Harry's trying to deal with the way the White Council operates, and not giving people a chance to change or to make better decisions, and how he had a chance to do that in his own life and wants to give that to others and to Molly. Just a really rich thematic book and really high quality. I think it's going to go at the top of my A tier. Then White Knight. This book is really good Dresden book, but on reread it had less impact for me than on first read. So it's probably the book here in the middle that is most centered around a single case file, and there's not really many side plots or anything for the first half of the book. It's just around this case file, and if you know how it plays out with the different White Court factions that are kind of behind the disappearances, then that's not really interesting. Harry being trying to help the Ordo Lebes, but them being skeptical of him. Elaine is not that interesting of a character here for me, so this book was not that engaging until we get to the whole climactic sequence in the Deeps. And the best part of this book, honestly, I think, was Harry discussing things with Lash over the course of the book, and you could see how he was starting to influence her and change her for the better, and seeing that culminate where she ends up sacrificing herself in the end, and we know creating a cool psychic spirit baby was really impactful, and more so on reread when you know everything that's going on there and can really look out for it. So I love the ending scene. The climax was really cool in the Deeps with that big battle sequence and the ghouls showing up and Marcone's people showing up, and it's chaos, and they escape with the Harry's shield ball being shot out of the cave. It's really cool. But the rest of the book, just okay on reread. It was fine. But maybe this is a tough one to rate because it's a tale of two books. Maybe in front of Summer Night there in Ventus Servitas. Then to Small Favor. So this is book 10, so it's a Denarian book. The Denarians always make things interesting. I hadn't remembered much from my first read of this book, and just having read this a few weeks ago, it's still not sticking in memory too great. I know there's the whole plot with the Gruffs, and so Summer's after him, and then the Denarians are also making trouble, and so there's a lot of really cool action scenes, like the one in the train station, the one in the aquarium, the one at the end in Demon Reach, and going out there for the first time. So there's a lot of cool stuff, but it's not the most impactful or memorable book for me. I think I still really love reading it, but maybe at the top of B or bottom of A for now. Yeah, we'll go for Zare. All right, Turncoat. This was one of the books that really shined on my reread. I just knowing, how it ends with Morgan dying, I was just really invested in watching Morgan and Harry's relationship evolve over the course of this book, and he came to the last place he thought would be a safe haven for him, and he just grudgingly comes to respect Harry over the course of this book. And there's great action scenes. There's there's some humor where every time Harry comes back to the apartment, Morgan is trying to kill Molly, and Mouse is keeping the peace. Like, I just loved that happening like 3 times. And then using Demon Reach at the end, and discovering the Intellectus, and just really cool climactic scene, and then the world building expansion we get with the White Council headquarters in Edinburgh was just great. And then we get kind of double climax where Harry figured out a way to outsmart Peabody and outs him at the White Council meeting, and then the Mist Fiend gets released, and Harry has to track Peabody down, and Morgan saves him at the end. Just a absolutely fantastic climactic sequence. Really love Turncoat. There's a lot of emotional things going on in Turncoat, and it feels like the emotional stakes of the series are really raising, and that one might be my first S tier Fuego book. Now changes. This one did blow my mind completely on first read. I think I reread this a second time not too long after, and then on third read, it's pretty much just as good. It does not stop from the first page till the end, being tense, emotionally impactful, just to the nth degree. Just shocking, learning that he has a daughter who's been captured by the Red Court vampires, and then the tense sequence of events that leads him to be, paralyzed and needing to become the Winter Knight, and then the amazing action scenes leading to him rescuing Maggie. I mean, so cinematic, and just the way that the ending plays out with Martin arranging things at the end to have that soul gaze with Harry, so Harry could see that Martin was trying to die at Susan's hands on purpose, so then Harry could kill Susan and the whole Red Court. Like, just an absolutely fantastic plotting of this book, and long-term plotting in the series for it to come to that point. And honestly, the part in the middle where Harry's deciding to become the Winter Knight and feeling like he's giving his soul away, just heart-rending, and knowing what Molly's going through at that time too, that we don't even get shown in this book. So just an outstanding book. It never lets up and is just amazing from start to end. So definitely at the top of S tier. And then Ghost Story. After the crazy things that happen in Changes, I loved this big switch that we got with Ghost Story. A quieter, more reflective book. The way that Harry has to relearn how everything works for him, the laws of physics that govern his spirit, and the magic, how he can do magic using memories, and dealing with Mort, who, just like Butters in Deadbeat, really shined in this book and showed his bravery and his courage. And I loved seeing Mort's character development in this book. But then the flashbacks are the best part of this book for me. Seeing Harry under Justin's horrible tutelage, but still having some nice memories with the baseball glove that he got, with having nice memories with Elaine, bonding with Elaine as they're learning magic together, seeing him use Flickumbicus for the first time, the insane flashback with He Who Walks Behind. I just am transfixed every time this book goes into a flashback mode. And then we end up with a really exciting climax here where the corpse taker has to be taken down, and we with the help of Bob, we storm Evil Bob's spirit fortress. That is just an insane scene with the Lecter specters. I loved it. And somehow Butcher made me care about those psychotic ghosts, because when they died at the hands of Corpse Taker, I felt really bad. Just really cool book here. Didn't maybe love the side tale with Fitz, but that was really thematically important too, with Harry trying to help someone else try to, come out from the influence of someone bad, just like he had done with Justin. So that was touching, if not the greatest side plot ever. But I love Ghost Story. I think this is going in my S tier. Wonderful Dresden book. And then we come out of his ghost form and into Cold Days. I was about to say Into the Fire with him being the Winter Knight, but he's into Arthas Tour, and just wild ride with this book where Harry is almost, getting killed every day, trying to get killed by Mab for his training as the Winter Knight and his physical therapy. The bonkers scene at his birthday where the Winter Court's celebrating and he almost gets killed by Maeve, but he outsmarts them with Ceris's help. And then just the craziness that goes on when he comes back into Chicago and the little people are Lacuna are trying to kill him, and then everything with the outsiders and joining the wild hunt with Murphy on the motorcycle is just an absolutely spectacular scene, culminating in a great climax where they stop the ritual. And so I love Cold Days. It's just a thrill a minute. I think Butcher had a great time writing this book because it's just one wacky, crazy scene after the next, and I loved it. This one probably going either at bottom of S or top of A tier. It's a little less impactful for me on reread, but love Cold Days, maybe top of A tier. And Skin Game. This book is really special. Like the way that Harry has to team up with Nicodemus. I just love his interactions with Nicodemus throughout this one. Some really impactful stuff here with Butters not trusting him and Harry having to deal with people being skeptical of him now that he's the Winter Knight, and that leading to that cool chase scene, but that results in Murphy getting injured by Nicodemus, and then Uriel coming down and giving his power to Michael so Michael can be by Harry's side. Just some really, really great stuff. Loved pretty much every scene in this book. The long heist sequence just blows me away every time. The great twist with Goodman Gray being on his side, but then Harry not knowing that Lashiel was with Hannah Asher, and that the Janasqua was a Denarian too. There's an amazing twist at the end, great action scenes, but some really impactful character stuff along the way too. So just a wonderful Dresden book. All right, now coming to the last little duology here, Peace Talks and Battleground. I read Peace Talks on release, and it ends with one of the craziest cliffhangers you could possibly dream up, where a Titan is coming to destroy Chicago. And so having to wait 3 months for that book, it felt like it wasn't complete. I was kind of just bummed that I had to wait. And so I didn't love Peace Talks on its own when I first read it. I probably would put it somewhere in B tier. But on second read, it was really compelling. Just intense emotional stuff happening between Harry and Thomas at the beginning, Harry and Ebenezer. Just the way that Ebenezer can't deal with Harry's involvement with anyone in the White Court, and disagrees with Harry being a parent to Maggie. Just so intense, the family dynamics there. And then getting absolutely blindsided by Thomas being the one to kill one of the Svart Elves, and worrying about his fate, and then Harry dealing with the Wardens and Ramirez, who are now doubting him, but still being on security detail for the Peace Talks, and then all these big series characters coming together for the Peace Talks. And then one of the most surprising, major, holy crap moments I've ever had reading, when the Fomor don't come to negotiate peace, but come with a Titan to just tell everyone, I'm about to destroy this city. The time of mortals is over. I was just left in awe on this second read, and knowing where it went, I think it's easier to be left on that note with this book. And then the way it ends with Harry having his duel with Ebenezer. I mean, I can't remember any action scene in any book that I've read that felt so emotionally loaded. It's Harry and his grandfather. You know, they both care so much about each other, but you kind of are on Harry's side on this one, and you don't want either one to be harmed. Ebenezer thinks he kills him. I mean, you can't dream up any situation where this gets more emotionally loaded. And so just a stunning action scene there at the end to really cap off this book. And so this one had a lot more impact for me on reread, and I was less dissatisfied with it ending the way it did. So I might go at the top of A tier for Peace Talks. All right, and then Battleground. This one I think I read this one kind of in a stupor on my first read. It was just, I couldn't believe what was happening, and I loved it. On second read, I loved it pretty much just as much. I think I'm going close to the top of S tier here for Battleground. Just mind-blowing action scene after action scene, the highest stakes imaginable. Harry taking on the banner and walking through Chicago and gathering his bannermen to him from the Winter Fae, from the regular people of Chicago, and then dealing with them fighting for him and dying was incredibly touching and impactful. The way all these huge figures that have been built up through the series, who we know, whether it's Odin or the Archive and Marcone and the White Court and the Earl King and Mab and Molly, and they're all coming, the Knights, they're all doing battle at the end with Ethnew and her forces. It's just absolutely epic. I love the twist at the end where you think Marcone died, and then he comes back as a Denarian and helps Harry bind Ethnew. Just a tremendous ending. And yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Murphy dying the way she did on first read, but on second read of the series, you see how Butcher actually set it up really well with Rudolph throughout the series has had a quick trigger finger, and I think is sending a message here that mortals are able to die, and in dangerous situations don't always get lucky, and I'm okay with it. I think with how epic and crazy the scale of things has to get from here on out, that I think this was a really touching way for Murphy to go out. So I'm not too angry about how that ended up playing out. But yeah, overall, I love this series. I think for a couple of things that weren't on this tier list, The Law, the novella that came out recently, I liked it a lot. Kind of a fun throwback Dresden case file. I'd probably put that somewhere maybe towards in B tier. And then some of the short stories were really great too. I'm not the biggest fan of short stories in general, but love Zude. Zude on its own would be maybe towards my S tier. Love getting the Maggie and Mouse POVs, very touching when she's really just starting to get to know her dad. And what else? There was didn't love a lot of the Bigfoot stories, so if I had to rate Briefcases, I'd probably put that pretty low overall. But Zude and the Warrior, the story about Butters, a lot of the short stories I really liked. But these are the novels. I pretty much, like every book, have nothing in my D tier. So like every book, I love almost all of them, and a lot of them are just compelling, engaging reads from the first page to the last, where I'm emotionally invested. So I can't wait to see where this is going. I think Butcher has just developed this into something so strong and impressive, and is just on an incredible run of books from really towards the beginning of the series with Death Mass, and then really from Deadbeat onward, just all really strong books. So what an incredible streak by Butcher. So tell me what you think in the comments about your own ratings. Where does your tier list kind of differ from mine? And hope you enjoyed my Dresden Files tier list. See ya.